Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Falls from Iron. Welcome to our post-match debrief. For those of you watching, please don't forget to drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and make sure you hit that bell icon to be notified of any new content as and when we upload it to the channel, such as this. Joining me today, Duke may well be along shortly, but he's been a little bit delayed. So stepping in off of the substitutes bench for now, we have the one and only Irish Tommy. How are you, sir? Oh, I think you're on mute, mate.
Sorry about that. It's a great start, isn't it? It's
one of the most used phrases of the last 18 months, isn't it? You're on mute.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a newfound kind of sympathy for GB News. I mean, if they can't get it right, what chance have we got, really?
It is what it is, mate. But all fun and games. So everything okay your side of things?
Yeah, everything okay. Doing well, thank God. Everything is rosy in the garden, thankfully. But unfortunately, it wasn't too rosy yesterday from a West Ham perspective.
Yeah, we're going to have to discuss it, aren't we, Tom? No, we ain't got a choice.
Yeah, look, we have to take the rough with the smooth, and we've had quite a bit of smooth, the last few months, so we've been doing okay. So we have to take our medicine this time, I'm afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to say a quick hello. We've got a newbie here. Michael, welcome along, mate. It's a pleasure to have you. Tell your friends, please do. And Mr. Walsh is in the building as well. Hello, Walshy. Well, I bumped into him down at the London Stadium yesterday as we was going in, had a little chit chat, and yeah, it was all good. So until obviously the match started, and then it just went a little bit pear-shaped from there on in. But we'll discuss that as we go along. So, right. So just bringing it up on screen there, Tommy. So that was the starting line. I'll just go full screen with that and get rid of that. Okay, there we go. So that was the starting lineup. I mean, no real shocks there for me. I mean, I pretty much said that would be the starting lineup before it was announced, and so it proved. I mean, obviously hindsight's perfect vision, but I mean, do you think that was probably the best that David Moyes could sort of like throw in against Brentford yesterday?
Yeah, it was about as strong as a team he could have picked. I don't think anybody had any complaints about the starting 11. It's our strongest. Potentially, you could make a case for Areola. I know that's probably something to get into. It's been quite the talking point on Twitter and other social media, I'm sure, since the game. But realistically, I mean, Fabianski was always going to start, so there was no surprises in that team whatsoever. It was you could pick. I think most fans could have selected that 11 really. So no complaints there. Very strong side.
Yeah, and I'll just get it up for the ladies and gentlemen at home so they can see, just for a little bit of balance. That there was the Brentford team. They absolutely packed the midfield there, didn't they? I mean, I wasn't too sure whether they'd go 4 in midfield, 5 in midfield, whatever. They ended up sticking a 5-man midfield in there, and they absolutely congested the midfield, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, and it worked for them. To be fair, it was the correct formation, that we know now. But I suppose it was no surprise, really. It was a question of, are they going to pack the midfield, or are they going to play with wing backs and try and pack the defense? So, excuse me for my Americanism there. Defense.
No, that's cool.
I was watching my NFL last night, so but yeah, so it was no surprise. It was going to be either the 3-5-2 or it was going to be the 5-3-2 with the wing backs. So they went with the packing the midfield, and frankly, I mean, the first half particularly, I mean, it worked a treat for them.
Yeah, it did. I'm just going to say a quick hello again, and another first timer making the live. Hello, Luke. Hope you are well. Please enjoy yourself, and don't forget to tell your friends. I mean, sort of like, I was lucky enough, obviously, as I say, to be at the ground. I'm a season ticket holder, as I'm sure you're aware, Tom. I was there with me kids, and it's actually the first time since lockdown I've actually had all 3 of me kids there at the same time. There's been various things in the game since where one of them's been missing or whatever. This was the first time that I actually had all 3 of me kids there, so it was quite a big thing for me, first game in 18 months, whatever. I got to say, 11 minutes into the match, I'm sitting there shaking my head because 3 clear opportunities that Brentford had, and we were fortunate that none of them found the back of the net. But I'm sitting there 11 minutes gone. I'm just like, what the hell am I watching?
Yeah, I mean, we were just completely off the pace. Brentford started very brightly, came at us right from the beginning, completely controlled the midfield. I mean, we just lost that midfield battle hands down. We were losing every 50-50 challenge. To use an Irish GAA term, any breaking ball, they were first to.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were very lucky in those early minutes. They didn't go behind even sooner, really. I mean, like you say, I mean, they had one effort, I think, hit the top of the crossbar, another
Yeah.
clear-cut chance that they should have scored from, that they headed wide from, and Fabianski had to make a couple of smart saves, and we were really under the cosh. We looked like a team that had a Europa League hangover. Those first 30 minutes were really hairy. And frankly, we were really lucky to only be 1-0 down at that point, and it looked very, very bad for us in those first 30 minutes. Evening,
Yeah.
Hammerette, by the way. I have to say hi to Hammerette. How are you?
She'll get the ump otherwise. She'll start sending you sort of like nasty tweets and all the rest of it, won't she? I know
Yeah,
what she's all about.
yeah, she'll get ratty and just start DMing me all kinds of nasty stuff.
Yeah, I know. You and me both, mate. I mean, she's always sending me DMs left, right, and centre. It's ridiculous. I'm thinking of blocking her and all sorts.
Yeah, the abuse is awful. Yeah,
yeah.
only kidding, Hammerette. She's a sweetheart. She's a
She
sweetheart.
is. Nah, she's good as gold. She's good as gold. But yeah, I mean, they had obviously, and Mbuemo had 2 brilliant chances. 3rd minute in, he had a shot that clipped the top of Fabianski's bar. I mean, if it had been a couple of inches lower, there was no way Fab was saving that. He then had a header just a couple of minutes later that he didn't get on target. 5 minutes that was, and then 11 minutes, Fabianski makes a save from a shot from Ivan Toney. And as I say, I was like, what am I watching? I mean, do you think that is it as simple as saying that it was a hangover from having such a quick turnaround from the game on Thursday night, or is there something possibly a bit more at play here, do you think?
No, I don't think there's too much to read into it. We can't say, you can never say for certain it was a hangover from Thursday night. It's probably the chief suspect, but there will be plenty of teams in the Premier League this season who don't have any European football, have little to no international players, who'll still turn up on a Saturday and for some reason just be really flat. It happens regularly to teams. I'm sure it'll happen to us again this season. So you can never say for certain that it was because of Europa League on Thursday night, but it's definitely the chief suspect. But you'll never really know. But all we know is that we were really, really flat, and their high press was something that we just couldn't handle. We were reduced to just hoofing long balls down the field. They were mopping them up with ease because Antonio was isolated, and then they got possession again, and we're all of a sudden we're pressing us again, and they were just destroying us in midfield and reducing us to long aimless balls, and we were really, really struggling, and we were just hanging on, and you're kind of watching it through your fingers at times, thinking,
Yeah.
oh Jesus, please, please wake up, please wake up. I knew we would. I knew at some point we would kind of get up to the tempo of the game and start to get some kind of foothold, but you're hoping that there hasn't been too much damage done before that happens.
Yeah, and the damage obviously came on 20 minutes with a goal from Brian Mbuemo. I mean, for me, at the end of the match, I can sort of say for me, he was the best player in their shirt. But in the 20th minute, Canos was through on goal, fired an angled drive 12 yards. Fabianski made the initial save, but it dropped into the path of Mbuemo. He's fired it back in. And from where I was sitting, I thought, oh, he's made a brilliant save. But of course, instantly the referee's, wrist watch is sort of vibrating or whatever it does. He's pointed back to the centre circle, and obviously the Brentford players have wheeled away in celebration. Obviously, I've seen it latterly on the replays, and it's clearly over the line. I've got no complaints with that. But yeah, 20 minutes in, the damage was done.
Yeah, and you really feared the worst at that point. It was looking bad for us because they were absolutely all over this. That goal was coming. They deserved the goal, has to be said. And at that point, it looked really bad for us. And you're just kind of willing the team to get a foothold, for crying out loud. Stop hoofing the ball around. I was hoping that instead of just hoofing ball, they would actually just, let's slow everything down here. Let's get our foot on the ball, pass it around. I don't care how often the centre-backs and full-backs are in possession at this point. We've just got to get control of this thing before it gets out of hand. And because it looked like we could be out of the game by half-time at that point. Because, that's Reba. So the
Done a
kitchen
runner.
window here. Yeah, the kitchen window's open. I'm out in the middle of the countryside. They're in no danger. So they come and go as they please, basically. So I've got 2 of them. The other one's already out. So they come and go all the time. But good observation, Hammerette. But yeah, so I just wanted us to just try and slow it down. Let's just slow it down, start passing the ball around, bit of patience. Let's try and get a handle on this thing, get control of it. But it took us a long time to do that. Now, in those first 30 minutes, we still had a couple of moments. We did have a couple of good attacks. Balls down the channel for Antonio particularly were effective. And we did seem to be getting some joy down our right-hand side with Sofel and Bowen. So Rico Henry seemed to be struggling a little bit down there. Maybe wasn't getting enough support and was often finding himself, with Sofel and Bowen down there with him. So we did have some joy. There was a couple of moments. Ben Ram obviously got a couple of shots off, but unfortunately were saved. So it wasn't all bad, but it was fleeting. It was few and far between. So yeah, we were lucky just to be that 1 goal down. But to be fair to the players, I think kind of the last 15 minutes of that first half, they did get a foothold and did actually start to get some possession, start to get into some dangerous positions, and we did create some chances where we might have equalised. Unfortunately, though, it didn't come before the break, and you have to say Brentford were very worthy of their 1-0 lead at the break, and really that whistle came at the right time for us. We really needed it, I think, and Moyes needed to get those players into the dressing room and do whatever he does in the dressing room at half time in these circumstances. I don't imagine he's a hairdryer type manager. I think he just gets them in, just has a word, gets them kind of their heads right and tells them what they've been doing wrong and what they need to start doing. I'm sure he told them they've got to up their energy levels. They've got to start pressing high, have to start getting hold of the ball in midfield, and because we were getting absolutely run over in midfield. I mean, they were coming through the middle just almost at free will, in that first half. So bad first half for us. But thankfully, we got in at only 1-0 down because it really could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, and as we came out, as you say. I believe that David Moyes must have had words to say, because that first half performance was just unacceptable. No other way of putting it. It was unacceptable performance. Fair enough. 1-0 down. Yeah, fine, okay. Any team can be 1-0 down, but just the general performance of the team was a million miles away from what we've seen, on a regular basis, probably for the last 18 months, I would argue, under David Moyes' stewardship. And I'm sure he was just as frustrated as probably the 60,000 or so in the stadium and everybody watching.
Yeah, because it was team wide. I mean, this wasn't, we've got 3 or 4 players having an off day. I mean, this was virtually the whole team. Maybe you could make a case that Bowen was decent in the first half, but
Yeah.
outside of that, I mean, just nobody was really playing well. Rice and Souček were completely overrun. They weren't even in the game, in that first half. I thought Zuma and Ogbonna were all over the place.
Yeah.
Particularly Zuma. It was just really poor from them, and like I say, we just didn't get going. And Antonio, I mean, he had virtually nothing to work with. I mean, all that was coming
No.
his way were these big, long, booming high balls,
Yeah.
and he's completely outnumbered back. Even if he won the initial header, I mean, there was just header was going nowhere. There was no one up there to try and win the breaking ball, and Brentford invariably got possession back. So it was really, like you say, performance-wise in the first half, it was up there with our worst performances under Moyes. It was almost like, before the COVID break,
Yeah.
when we looked almost dead certs to go down.
Mm.
That's kind of what it looked like, in that first half, especially the first 30 minutes. So yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible,
Yeah.
that first half.
Well, fortunately enough, we did seem to start the second half an awful lot better. I mean, we had 3-4 chances before we actually managed to go and get the equaliser. There was a shot by Ben Rama from a free kick. He put it over the wall, but it was met by a save by David Raya, who tipped it over the bar. And then a couple of minutes later, Ben Rama slipped Bowen through on goal, but Raya came out, made a brilliant block from Bowen's effort. You then had a sort of chance from Bowen again in the 62nd minute inside the 6-yard box, where he didn't really make a good connection, and it went past from a header past the post. And then another opportunity 2 minutes later with Fornals, but his strike was blocked by Rico Henry, and then Raya charged down Kufau's half volley. So you're sort of like, you're sitting there and you're like, well, 20 minutes into the second half, we're doing quite a bit of pushing and all the rest of it. But the one thing that I found was quite noticeable, and I had Charlie from Bees TV, and he even alluded to it, that Brentford were quite adept at breaking up the play and sort of like the dark arts, if you will. And I don't want it to come across that I'm a bitter West Ham fan that's crying over this, because obviously, we obviously lost and all the rest of it. I completely understand it was the right thing for them to do. They're a sort of like a team that's just come up from the Championship. They're away from home. They're defending a 1-0 lead. To be fair, if the roles were reversed, we'd have absolutely done the same thing. But obviously, as a sort of like a home supporter in that set of circumstances, it was obviously quite frustrating for us to watch. Neutrals, I think, would have probably been quite frustrated about it. But Brentford did absolutely the right thing in breaking up the play, didn't they?
Yeah, no complaints whatsoever. If we were in their circumstances and we're under that kind of pressure, and we're under siege, really, I would like to think a David Moyes West Ham team would be employing certain of the dark arts just to try and break up the play. And so yeah, I've got no complaints whatsoever, Gatesy.
Yeah.
They did exactly what they should have been doing. Look, we've seen a lot of teams come up from the Championship and try to kind of play this pretty kind of tippy-tappy football that's really easy on the eye and be very naive. Lose thrilling games and get little kind of condescending pats on the back for their style of play and all this. Like Norwich comes to mind. Brentford are absolutely correct to do that. If they're going to stay up, and I think they will because they look a really decent side, then yeah, that has to be part of their game. They've got to be willing to do the dirty stuff. They've got to be willing to employ the dark arts, as you call them, to try and get their results. No problem with that whatsoever. I would hope we are perfectly capable in the right circumstances of engaging a little bit of that ourselves.
Yeah. When the circumstances present themselves where it's right to do that, I've got no problem with it.
I'd be critical of our team if we didn't do that in certain circumstances. I'd be saying, like, why aren't you breaking up the game? Why aren't you doing this and doing that to disrupt our opponents. One of our player gets a little tackle. Just stay down a little longer. Just take your time getting up. Let's slow this down. Let's kind of try and disrupt their flow if we can. And I'd be very disappointed if we didn't do that. And I'm sure, like Brentford fans have got no problem with it. And to be honest, I don't either.
No,
but yeah, you're right.
Not.
I mean, just to start at the start of the second half, I mean, we were just a totally different team. Came out with intent, really got after them, closed them down much better. We took control of midfield. And basically, for almost the entire second half, Brentford were just completely defensive. Got everyone behind the ball. I mean, you often kind of had Ivan Toney helping out Rico Henry at left back, and which was great to see. I mean, kudos to him. I mean, he worked his socks off, Ivan Toney. I was really impressed with him, with his attitude. I actually remember thinking during the game, I'll tell you what, if Moyes is seeing that from Ivan Toney, how much work he's putting in and how he's tracking back and helping his left back out and doing a good job of it. I'd imagine Moyes was looking at that thinking, oh, I like this guy.
Yeah.
He looked like a Moyes type player, didn't he? And he's got quality going forward as well. He looks a real threat. I think he's going to score some goals for them this season. So I'm really impressed with Ivan Toney, I have to say.
He put in a really good performance. And as you say, it wasn't just going forwards that he was impressive. It was sort of like when Brentford were out of possession and they were working to defend their lead. I mean, he was part of that just as well. But we get forwards to the 80th minute. We get a corner. Aaron Cresswell takes it. It ricochets off the back of the Thomas Soucek. Was probably the one half decent thing that he managed to do, if I'm being completely honest with you. It drops at the feet of Jared Bowen, who connects with a half volley, flew past David Raya, and obviously London Stadium, sort of like 90% of it jumped up into raptures. And it was a goal that was coming, and I'm glad that it went to Bowen, because obviously he's someone that for me has been working so hard for the team and just so far hasn't managed to get a goal up to that point. So I mean, I don't know about you, but I was really not just pleased that we got the equaliser, but pleased it was him that got it. Yeah,
he needed a goal, didn't he? And his performances this season deserved it. He works tirelessly. Often with nothing on the end of it. From his point of view, I mean, goals wise. So delighted for Jared Bowen. He's off the mark. Hopefully now there'll be more to come from him this season. But as you say, it was coming. So I know what you mean when you say it was coming, because we had been kind of battering them, and we'd had numerous opportunities that we fluffed really. But on the one hand, when you say it was coming, I know what you mean. But on the other hand, I was watching it, thinking, oh, it's going to be one of those days, isn't it? It's going to be one of those days where we just throw the kitchen sink at them and just nothing is going to go in. It's just going to be one of those frustrating days where nothing goes in, and we just, fluff everything, and they get blocks. Keeper makes a great save, and we just cannot score for love nor money. So for me, it was just the absolute relief of having equalised, because we did deserve it. We really did deserve that equaliser. But it was so late in the game. I was thinking it's just never going to come, is it? It's just never going to come. We're going to lose 1-0 in a game we deserve something from. But I mean, the relief was huge. And because Bowen kind of redeemed himself, because he did miss an absolute sitter. That header. I mean, that's got to go in. That's a free header, point blank. He watched that ball all the way onto his head. It's a few yards out, right in front of goal. That's got to hit the back of the net. Delighted he was able to redeem himself and get the equaliser. A massive relief when that went in, and I think you hear that in the cheer in the ground. The ground erupted, because I think there was a real sense of frustration in the ground that we had so many opportunities and had been battering them for so long, since the 45th minute, basically, when we retook the field. And I think there was as much relief as joy from the fans when we finally equalised. But as you say, I mean, that was a great hit. Okay, it wasn't long range by any means, but the way he struck that on the half volley, and really put his laces through it, and it just went like a missile. And it was just placed perfectly right inside the post. It was a really, really great shot from Bowen, despite the fact that it was close enough range. But it was really a hard shot, really accurate. Keeper had absolutely no chance with that. And at that point, I was thinking, because we've been in such control, at that point, you're thinking, right, we've still got time here. We can actually do what we did to Leeds and come back and win this thing.
Yeah, and how little you knew at that point, though, of course, how things were going to unfold. Of course, we actually had a chance in 87 minutes as well, where Declan Rice got the ball, he crossed it. Antonio and Souček were at the back post, but neither of them made contact. And how little did we know? A couple of minutes later, there was a sting in the tail in the 90+ fourth minute. Johan Visser. From a free kick that was given away, I believe it was Ogbonna who went in for a challenge, and he's given the free kick away, sort of like just outside the penalty box. And Jensen curled in a delivery, and it was Janssen that got header at goal. Fabianski made the save, but he's pushed it out into the danger area, and it drops at the feet of Visser, and he's just smashed it through a crowd of bodies, and 2-1, and you just knew that there was no way back from that point on.
Yeah, that was an absolute sickener, and it wasn't deserved. The second half we played more than well enough to be good for a point. We were deserving of a point. Had it finished 1-1, I don't think West Ham or Brentford fans could have complained too much. That's the vagaries of sport, isn't it? It's just it's a horrible way to lose a game, but it's also catching it. It was point blank bullet header.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know about catching it, but
yeah.
maybe sort of like parrying it away for a corner or doing something other than what he did. But hindsight's always perfect vision.
No, look, I mean that came at him in a flash. I mean, I think it was probably all he could do just to get his hands on it. That was point blank range, and it was a bullet header. I mean, it was literally all he could do was to react to get his hands up in front of it. I don't think he had time to even decide, where he wanted to put it. There's no catching that, and I don't think there's any time to even try and angle your hands where you can push it in a particular direction. He literally just had enough time to try and get hands up to it and reaction save. It's just, look, it's bad luck. Listen, Gatesy, look, if he saves that, parries it as he does, and then Declan Rice or someone hooks it clear down the field, everyone would be on Twitter saying, "Oh, well done, Fab,
great save."
There. So it's a bit harsh to me.
And that's the thing with being a goalkeeper, isn't it? The dividing line between success and failure is that thin.
Yeah, it is, and I think there's a lot of criticism that against Fabianski I'm seeing on social media now that to me is over the top, is a bit harsh. And I say that as someone who would like to see Areola start. I think Areola is a better keeper. I think he's stronger in certain areas that Fab isn't, particularly distribution. But to blame Fabianski for either of those goals or for his performance in general the other day, I think is harsh. I don't think Fabianski really did a lot wrong. I can't think of a lot that I can think of where I think, Jesus, Fabianski, what are you doing? Like he did his best at the first goal to save it twice. Made a good save on the first one. If you want to talk about blame on those goals, you shouldn't be talking about Fabianski. On the first one, you've got to be talking about Zuma and Ogbonna, who were terrible. I'm sorry, were terrible for that first goal. And yet you've got people on social media talking about Fabianski's to blame for the goal. It's like, what are you watching? Go back and look at that goal and forget Fabianski. Have a look at Zuma and Ogbonna on that goal. They were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. Like Zuma's gone to sleep. He's got a player coming in front of him, running off to his left, and he's ball watching and allowing this player to run in behind. Ball is played through, and he's in behind completely, and Zuma's trying to track back, which is never going to happen. Ogbonna's got caught too far up the field, and now he's trying to get back and can't get back in time. That was a defensive error from our centre-backs. No blame on Fabianski. He did his best with the first save and made a good save. Unfortunately, who was following up?
What for the opener?
For the first, yeah.
And Burmo, yeah.
Yeah, and Bomo. So he was following up well, and Fabianski made a really great effort as well. So, this Fabian, it's kind of, I think this Fabianski kind of stuff, blaming him for yesterday, is agenda driven.
Do you think it's because people just simply want
Yeah.
Areola in goal?
I think there are people who just want Areola in goal ahead of Fabianski and are now trying to make excuses for why that needs to happen. Now, I happen to agree. I would like to see Areola start. I actually do think he's a better keeper than Fabianski, but I'm not digging Fabianski out for either of those two goals yesterday.
He's still a great shot stopper.
He is still a great shot stopper, and he's still a fine goalkeeper. He's still a fine goalkeeper. Okay, he's maybe not as good right now as he was maybe 2 seasons ago, but he's still a solid goalkeeper, a solid number one. And this digging him out for yesterday is really wide of the mark, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. So obviously we finished the game.
Also, sorry, Gatesy, because I know. Sorry, Gatesy, because I know we were talking about their winner, and I got kind of sidetracked on the Fabianski thing.
That's cool.
But the one thing that's really annoying to me on that goal is not actually so much the goal itself, because that happens. I can live with that. It's a sickener, but I can get over it. That's the vagaries of sport. But for me, it wasn't a free kick. I think that was a really soft free kick. I don't think Ogbonna fouled. I think the Brentford player, I can't remember who it was, pushed the ball past him and then ran into him and threw himself to the ground. Ogbonna stood his ground. Ogbonna made no challenge. Made no challenge whatsoever. He didn't stick a foot out. He didn't step across and block, interfere with the Brentford player. He literally stayed small, stood his ground. Brentford player knocked the ball past him, ran into him, and then threw himself to the ground. Referee bought it hook, line, and sinker. And look, fair play to the Brentford players. You were talking about the dark arts. That's one of them. If a West Ham player did it, I'd say, geez, well done. You've bought yourself a free kick there in a dangerous position. But the referee fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And I thought the referee was really poor yesterday.
I was going to say, it wasn't the first thing. It wasn't the last thing he fell for.
I mean, the free kick he gave Rayo in the first half when he spilled the ball was an absolute joke. Absolute joke of a decision. No challenge whatsoever. Again, no challenge whatsoever from Antonio. Rayo goes up, catches the ball, comes down. Antonio's literally just standing there. Ball hits Antonio on the top of the head as the keeper's coming down, spills out the keeper's hands, and the ref gives him a free kick. It was a joke, and the ref has actually cost us in the end with that free kick. There was absolutely no foul from Ogbonna on that one.
No. So obviously we finished the game. We've lost the game 2-1. And I've said it to a few people today, I'm trying to be philosophical about it. And I use the expression, some days you are the statue, some days you are the pigeon. We went to Elland Road, we got a last minute winner through Antonio, and we're all sort of cock a hoop and all the rest of it. This is the other side of that particular coin. And, if you're going to sort of you got to take rough with smooth.
Yeah, look, Leeds fans were on the receiving end of it from us the previous game. They'll have been sickened. They thought they were going to get a point out of that game, and then deep in injury time they go and lose it, albeit to a brilliant breakaway goal. But yeah, look, and now we were on the receiving end of it from Brentford. It happens. It's a sickener. You'll probably be thinking about it for a while, but you just have to accept that will happen. There will be other games this season where we'll rob somebody. We'll be in a game where we're probably not good for any more than a point, and we go and win it, with a goal and maybe a not quite so deserved win. But we'll rub our hands and say, yeah, take that, thanks very much. We'll be delighted. You just, like you say, you just have to, sometimes it happens to you and you just have to take your medicine and just move on.
Yeah. Just a couple of little points that I sort of little notes that I made that I wanted to discuss with you, Tom, if you don't mind. One of which being, in my opinion, I'm having some concerns over not just yesterday's performance, but basically the performances in general this season of one Thomas Souček. Now, his performances have been a million miles removed from the guy that we've seen the last previous season and a half. Is it anything to do with the fact that Declan Rice's role now within the team seems to have evolved and he's now careering forwards more with the ball? So is that leading to Thomas Souček to maybe not be able to make the late runs forwards that he otherwise used to make? Or is it tiredness, or what do you see as going on there?
Yeah, obviously it's going to be hard to put your finger on it because we don't have a big sample size yet, of games. It's still very early in the season. It could just be nothing more than he's just out of form. Happens to every player. But the point you make is an interesting one. As I say, Declan Rice is constantly evolving and improving as a midfielder. He's spoken himself how he wants to be more like a kind of Patrick Vieira type midfielder who can do it all. Who can defend well, who can put in the tackles, win the ball, make interceptions, and who can drive forward and influence the game in the final third, and who can score some goals as well along with it. And he's doing that. I mean, he's just getting better and better and better, Rice. And yeah, his game is evolving. And he's just an unbelievable talent. Just an unbelievable talent. So yes, I'm sure that means that Souček doesn't get to go forward as often as he used to, or as often maybe as he'd like. But I don't think that's the reason he's not playing well. I think he's just like any player. He's just out of form at the moment. He's still a tremendous player, Souček. And I think, his form will return, and I think he'll come good, because I do think that's a brilliant partnership between him and Rice. And I think, that partnership will be back to its best. It's only a matter of time. I guess the question, I'd be interested to hear what you think on this, Gatesy, and actually people in the live chat. The question is, do you stick with him? Because there's two lines of thought you can take here, right? So you can either stick with him and say, look, he's a tremendous player. He's hugely important to the team. We're going to keep playing him, and he's going to come through this spell. And and his form will return, and he'll be back to the Thomas Souček that we know. Or do you say, okay, we've got to get him out because he's not playing well now in too many games. We need to bench him, and we've got to get Kral or someone in there. Depending on the opposition, could even play Lanzini there, because we've done that before to great effect. So do you get him out of there, bench him, wait until you see him kind of flying it in training, and then maybe bring him back in? It's always hard to know. It's hard to know what the best thing to do is.
I guess it's difficult because I suppose the only one that can really answer that is probably David Moyes, because I suppose if he sees Thomas Souček day to day at Rush Green, he'll know whether he's someone that's maybe lacking in confidence, or whether he's just like, it's just one of those things, boss, whatever. I don't know. I think if it is a confidence thing, if his confidence is dwindling, then personally, I think it is probably, I know it might be sort of like, it might seem a little bit counterproductive, but there's part of me that sort of thinks actually maybe just take him out of the firing line for a bit, just let him sort of regroup, recalibrate, whatever, rest. I don't know what it is, but there's definitely something. This is not the same Thomas Souček that we've seen for the last 18 months. I think that Alex Kral probably would be a decent option to bring in. I mean, he's only had really sort of like the game against Manchester United that we can really judge him on, but I thought he looked decent. I don't know about you. So I'd quite like to see Kral maybe given an opportunity and see what happens. I'm sure that Thomas Souček is still a quality player, but as I say, I guess it's just, is it a confidence thing? Is it, the only one that knows that ultimately is David Moyes. But I think possibly it might be an idea to just give him a little bit of a break, because he played non-stop last season, didn't he? I mean, I think the only minute of Premier League football we missed was after he got the red card at Craven Cottage.
Yeah, he's played a lot of games, and the thing with him is he's got a really good engine, and he just never stops running. And you wonder, is it just the amount of football he's played? I mean, obviously he played in the Euros as well.
Yeah.
He doesn't even get the international breaks off. He's the captain of Czech Republic. He plays in all their games. You just wonder if it's a question of just too much load now. And
Yeah.
you might be right. It could be a case of, okay, we need to rest him. We need to just kind of let him kind of hit the reset button, get his energy levels back, get his enthusiasm to play back. But yeah, I actually agree with Hammerette. I suspect that Moyes will keep him in there.
Probably.
Moyes is very loyal to players, and when he likes a player, he tends to keep playing him. He tends to allow his kind of favoured players to play through their kind of bad spells until they recover their form. So I don't think he'll drop Souček. But perhaps it would be best to give him a couple of games off. We've got obviously a couple of games coming up against Genk. I think we could afford to play Krell in both those games. I think
agree.
we could afford to not play Souček in those. So that could help him a lot. Where he don't even bring him. Just don't even put him on the plane. I think leave him at home and say, look, we're going to give you these games off. You just get ready for the weekend. Maybe that would do the trick. We'll also have a Carabao Cup coming up against Man City. Would you maybe be willing to give him, just a spot on the bench for that? So, yeah, it's hard to know because, sometimes it is the right thing to do to just let players play through the bad spell. Sometimes they come through it faster if they're playing. So
I think it probably is just he's played so much football in a relatively short space of time, and he's not had much of a break. As you say, Euros, the entire Premier League season, which he didn't miss anything, but other than the sort of like the minute or two of injury time at Craven Cottage when he got sent off incorrectly by the referee. He's human at the end of the day. I personally think it might be a good idea, and especially if it's done the right way. And I think David Moyes is a very good manager. I think if he could literally just put his arm around his shoulder and say, listen, you are one of my generals in the central midfield area along with Declan, but I just feel that you need to have a game or two, just sort of like put your feet up, recharge the old batteries, get your hunger back, get your sort of like you rejuvenate yourself. You'll be back. But I'm just going to take you out of the firing line just for a couple of games. I'm going to put your Czech compatriot in. He'll do a good job, I know. But, you're coming back for the big games that are down the track, because I trust you. And I think that would work.
Yeah. Like I say, it's always difficult to know, but I suspect you're right, Gatesy. I think he probably does need a little time on the bench. But I have a lot of faith in Souček. I know he'll come good. He is a really good player. But look, it's hard to know. But I'd be inclined to give him some rest. See if we can get him back on form. I think that last comment there was maybe a little premature.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, very premature. Listen, this is... So I think that's a bit reactionary. Look, Zuma didn't play well against Brentford, but overall this season, I think Zuma's been really good. He just had listen, the whole bloody team, more or less, that particularly that first half, had a bad day. Zuma's looked good apart from yesterday. Vlasic, look, not every player is going to come in and hit the ground running, be amazing.
Look at Ben Rama last
straight
season.
away. Yeah, he's had very few starts, Vlasic. Let's not write him off after being here for such a short period of time. Let's give him some time. Vlasic, it's way too early to start talking about Vlasic being a waste of money. Like, geez, let's hold tough on that one until he's been with us for quite a while longer. And not every player hits the ground running.
Yeah, and as I say, sort of Saeed Benrahma last season, it took him a little bit of time to acclimatise, for him to sort of get his head round how David Moyes wanted to utilise him. And, now you look at him and it's a completely different player, and he's one of the first names on the team sheet. So it could be that 12, next season, Vlasic has had that time to sort of bed in and get to know the Moyes pattern of play.
Yeah,
And
and look,
we're then in a similar position with him as we are with Benrahma now.
Yeah, listen, people need to understand something. If you come from the Championship to the Premier League, or you come from, say, Eastern European leagues or something like that, or sorry, I don't mean any disrespect by this. Some of the lesser leagues in Europe, the step up to the Premier League, I think people underestimate what a big step up that is in quality. And you spoke about Benrahma, and it was obvious when Benrahma first started playing for us in the Premier League. He struggled a little bit because he thought, okay, this is a different level completely here now that I'm playing. This is not like Championship. Everything happens much faster. People, my opponents are much better. They're stronger. They're better players. Everything. You don't get the same kind of time on the ball. You don't skip past people as easily as you do other places, and it took Benrahma a while to adjust to the step up in quality. Now, thankfully, he had the ability to do it. He has amazing ability, Benrahma, and so he was able to make that adjustment, and we're reaping the benefits of that now. Thank God. He's getting better and better, and looks like he's gonna, fingers crossed, now have a breakout season for us. But the same will be true of Vlasic. Vlasic will be realizing, okay, this is totally different level to where I was playing before. I'm playing against much better players every week. Every opponent we play, have got quality players, and the quality, the depth of quality in the Premier League is something you don't find anywhere else.
Agreed.
It doesn't matter who you're playing. Look, Liverpool went to Brentford. They've just been promoted. Liverpool, don't need to tell you about Liverpool. A huge side, great team and massive team, and they're 3-3. So
Yeah.
You don't often get easy games in the Premier League. Most games you're going to
No.
have to earn your points. I mean, the strength and depth in the Premier League is like nowhere else. So yeah, Vlasic is going to have to learn the same way Benrahma did, how to play at this level. Now, hopefully, like Benrahma, Vlasic will have the quality and the ability to make those adjustments, and will start to flourish in time. But it's far too early to start writing people off.
Yeah, I agree. One other thing I want to talk about, I mean, it's not very often that this happens in a Premier League game, but we completed 90 minutes and not one single substitution was made. Do you think that David Moyes missed a trick there?
It's one of those. It's very
Because
hard to say.
before Bowen scored, I mean, Vlasic was actually getting stripped up. I actually saw him. He was on the touchline. He was getting ready to come on. I have a suspicion it may have even been that he was coming on for Bowen, but I don't know that for a fact. But it just sort of like the ball hit the back of the net, and it was like, right, you back you go, and there was never anyone even sort of brought on sort of like later, even to sort of like do what Brentford were doing essentially, and breaking up the play when the momentum was against us, sort of thing. Just sort of wasting a bit of time. Should the need have arisen, but not one single substitution. I found that quite odd in the modern day.
Yeah, and I suppose Simon was asking the question there. Why didn't Moyes make any subs? Just to answer Simon's question directly, I suspect the reason is that Moyes felt like there wasn't really much more we could do. We were completely on top in that second half, completely on top. We were battering them, knocking on the door, knocking on the door, knocking on the door. And I think he felt like the players can't really do much more, in open play here. We've got them pinned back, in their own penalty box a lot of the time, and
Yeah.
we're battering them. And I think he felt that we had all the momentum, and we were pressing them so hard that I think he felt like it's coming.
Yeah.
The goals are coming. I think he looked at the bench and thought, if I bring Vlasic on, is he going to turn this on its head? If I bring Lanzini on, is he going to turn this game on its head? I think he looked back and thought, what are the players on there not doing? Really, they're battering these guys. They're all over them. Then the equaliser came. Like you said, I think at that point, 80th minute,
Yeah.
he was thinking, right, I'll get a couple of bodies on. But then we got the equaliser and he thought, okay, we've made the breakthrough. Let's not break up the momentum. Let's not disrupt anything now because we're completely on top and we've just equalised. I'm going to trust these players now to keep knocking on the door and to hopefully go and maybe get me a winner. So I suspect that's why Moyes didn't make a substitution. And I know it's easy to second guess him now because of what happened right at the death.
Yeah.
And there are other games I've watched where he hasn't made substitutions that I think were crying out for them. And I've criticised him for it. But I find it more difficult to criticise him on this particular one because we were in so much control of that game and we were battering them and we had equalised. And I think he felt that the players that were out there were doing enough and that they could go on and win it. And I think that's why he didn't want to disrupt it. Now, it's hindsight's 50-50. It's easy to say, oh, he should have brought this player on and brought that player on. And, there's nothing to say that would have materially changed what we were doing, because we were already completely on top and battering them. And it looked like we might batter them into submission.
Yeah.
I might go and win the thing. So on this occasion, I find it a little more difficult to criticize him for not making subs. Like, if we were struggling, if we looked really tired and we were struggling and we were really defensive and we looked like we really needed fresh legs on there, then I could say, get bloody subs on, get fresh legs on, make subs.
Yeah.
But given that we were so on top and that we had equalised, I can kind of understand why he didn't want to mess with it. But look, I also understand people's opinion, and it's not without merit. People who say, maybe he should have done something a little differently. Maybe he could have brought Vlasic on and put him up top with Antonio and gone two up top and really tried to go and win it. Or brought fresh legs on someone like Lanzini, who has really quick feet and has a good eye for a little pass through, who might have been able to unlock them a bit. And so I completely get those arguments, and they're not without merit. And had Moyes done that and made those substitutions, I'd have had no problem with that. But I don't think I understand why. I think I understand why he decided not to do it.
Fair enough. I'm going to put you in the shoes of David Moyes now, Tommy. I'm going to do a little bit of role play with you. Now, let's just suppose we get through the international break. No injury concerns.
I don't have to put on a Scottish accent.
No. I'll let you keep your accent as it is. That's absolutely fine. Everybody comes back from international duty fit. Ryan Fredericks is good to go. We got Everton on the Sunday, the 17th. Obviously, it's away. It's at Goodison. Are you? What's your thoughts? Are you thinking maybe? Are you going to stay the same shape? Are you going to change formation? Your personnel? What do you think's coming?
I think 4-3-2-1 and the same 11 you saw against Brentford.
I don't think there's going to be any.
No, I don't think there'll be any changes. I think we'll see the same 11 again. And I completely agree with that if that's what Moyes does. Away to Goodison, it's a tough game, away to Everton. And we've got to, particularly given what happened against Brentford, we've got to go there and, really try and win that game. We can afford to not put out our best 11 at home to Genk, in my opinion. Genk are not a great side at all. We should be beating them without having to play our entire first 11. We'll still put out a very strong team against Genk at home, don't get me wrong. But we have to go to Everton all guns blazing. We've got to try and get the 3 points up there, given that we lost at home to Brentford. We've got to get 3 points board again. So it has to be our best 11. There's no question in my mind about that. And I'm certain, everyone being injury-free, we'll see 4-3-2-1 and the same 11 that we saw against Brentford. And I hope that's what he does, because that's what he should be doing.
Fair enough. Tommy, I thank you very much indeed for your time and joining me on this stream. It really is much appreciated, and you're welcome on here as always. As you know, I've told you many times, we love having you on. You tell it as it is, and you obviously the people in the live chat, and they all sort of like interact with you, and yeah, it's good. So anytime, mate.
Yeah, listen, thanks for having me on. Thanks to everyone in the live chat as well for all their interactions and their comments. And I always enjoy reading those and getting other perspectives. And so, yeah, I enjoyed coming on. So, happy to come on whenever I'm free to, Gatesy. So I'll talk West Ham all day and all night. No problem.
You know it. And guys, don't forget the campaign for Isla is still ongoing. We'd ask you to just this information on this banner is in the description below. I would say YouTube and Facebook normally, but Facebook's crashed. So just YouTube at the minute. Just copy and paste it, put it onto your social media platforms. Little note as to what it's all about. There's a 6-year-old girl that's suffering with neuroblastoma. The family needs our help. If you are in a position to be able to put some money in the pot, you've got the Just Giving link there. We ask you to give as generously as you can, and no donation is too small. And we thank you very much indeed for listening as always. And don't forget to drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and make sure you hit that bell icon to be notified of any new content as and when we upload it to the channel. And we are going to do our usual sign out, Tommy. Come on, you.